there's so many betrayals in this book. No one's talked about the issues. They've got to. Hi guys, welcome to another video. If you are new here, then hi, I'm Liz, and if you are regular, then welcome back. In today's video, I'm gonna be talking about the folk of the Air Trilogy by Holly Black, including The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing, and I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts about it. Stay tuned. The folk of the Air Trilogy evolves around the mortal girl Jude, who has been forced to live in fairyland after her stepfather murdered her mother and father. Her mother was actually the wife of her stepfather, but had run away for a reason we discover in this series. But it's not fun being a mortal in fairyland. You are being taken advantage of and are being looked down upon. And we sort of follow her rise to power and revenge of being treated really badly. And we follow her making herself a place, proving that she has a right to be in fairyland as a fairy has. And that even though she is mortal, that she still has a right to be in fairyland and not just, be teased and tricked and looked down upon at all. She deserves an equal place in fairyland, and that's a difficult task. And of course there's a lot of war and intrigues and betrayals, and there's a love interest that we don't know whether he's actually in love with her or not, or is he just playing tricks. And we get to follow all of Jude's ups and downs throughout these 3 books, and I'm gonna be trying not to make this a spoiler. Yes, I've got some things I really need to talk about, but maybe that my husband has to listen to it. So what I really like about this book is that the fairies seems to have been inspired by the original fairies that, are tricksters and can't be trusted. They are mischievous and they look not like super humans. Because that's the thing at the moment, even with Sarah J. Maas, Fae look incredibly beautiful and human-like, except for the pointed ears, and there are most definitely those fairies in this trilogy as well, but they just look weird. They've got green skin, they've got blue skin, pink skin, they come in all sorts of colours, and I really like that, even though it takes a little bit of my mental energy to keep seeing them like that, because apparently my mind keeps forgetting how they look. So when they say like that Mad ex-wife is green or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And have animal-like features. Some have hooves, and Carl, the main love interest, he's got a tail, and he's described as beautiful, don't get me wrong, but he has got a tail, and she definitely got the hots for him. And I really like that it's more of a fantasy than a romantasy, that the romance plot is not the main plot at all, which is what I've been reading a lot of lately, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just nice to read something a little different. And I really like that it's a slow burn. There's so many books at the moment that try and be slow burn, but within 100 pages, they're just getting off of each other, and it feels like a true enemies to lovers. Like they are enemies, and it takes a while to become lovers, which in my opinion you would if you were enemies. If you're enemies, you're not just going to be you might be attracted to one another, but actually crossing that line, that takes a bit of it takes a lot of denial to begin with, and then there's a lot of almost doing stuff. And I really like that. It was a slow burn. It was so lovely. But it's also one of the things I'm not that into. It's not that I'm not into it, because I want to bring back slow burns again. I really need more slow burns in my life. So if you've got some good slow burn books, then leave a comment below and let me know. What I missed in this trilogy was them finding each other and standing side by side a lot earlier. than they actually did. Each book has a plot where they sort of gravitate towards each other and work a little bit together because they have to. But then Holly Black comes up with a plot twist and they can't have each other. And I know that's like writing skills 101, that what your character wants, they can't have. That's fair, but I would have liked to see them standing side by side. Or having Jude and Carden in the third book, you know, doing some real groundwork to make it more, not plausible, because I saw it coming from the very first book, but it was just a little bit, it was just a bit sudden. Like in the last book, they sort of just found each other, declared their love for one another quite suddenly in the book, and obviously they couldn't have each other as well. Jude has to go through another trial, and it felt a little bit flat, so I can't really say what's going to happen, but basically Carden says that he loves Jude and she doesn't say it back, and something happens and she obviously regrets that she didn't say that she loved him when she had the opportunity to. And even though I really like that plot twist, I think it would have been a lot stronger if they had been further in their relationship than they actually were at the end. I would have really loved for them to stand together as a couple and fight the world and trust one another, because they're like, Holly Black is a master of plot twists. I felt like I knew where the books were going and I was completely right doing every single one of them, but the journey towards that, there were so many plot twists, and I sat at the edge of my seat and was like, what just happened? He can't do that, she can't do that, that's her sister, she needs to be like, a sister cannot do that. I think that was almost the one that broke my heart the most. That was whatever the sister did, and I'm not going to be saying any more if you haven't read the book, but that sister, that was good, that was really good. But as a theme of my feelings about this book, it's as if Holly Black doesn't really go all the way through. Like, she makes a huge betrayal, as the sister does to Jude in almost all of the books, but then they don't have the confrontation and they don't talk about it, and it comes off a little weak actually, that they just sort of resolve it without really resolving it, and I don't get it. Like, maybe that's just me. Family can get away with a lot because it's family, but there's just some things family cannot get away with, and then you have to talk about to get to the other side again. Sometimes I miss that in fantasy books. And I know there's war and important things. Seriously, they need to talk about the shit that's happening and all of the betrayals and the misunderstandings, and it just feels a bit flat. And that's a shame, I think. And it's not often that I say this about fantasy books, but each of these books are just about 300 pages, so they're not that long. Again, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just feel like if Holly Black had added 50 to 100 more pages in each book, that maybe these subjects wouldn't feel so flat. It's not always that I say I want a fantasy book to be longer, because fantasy books are usually too long. It's usually the other way around. Scrap 50 to 100 pages and it would have been so much better. Another issue that I have with the trilogy, with the writing style of Holly Black actually, is I found some of the sentences, both in the dialogue but also in the descriptions, like they were a bit confusing. I had to reread them a couple of times to actually understand what was going on, and maybe that's just the style of how she'd taken inspiration from Old English or something. It wasn't that bad, but there's just something about the sentences that made me think of that. And it was a bit confusing at times where Jude would be, I don't know, at the palace, and we knew that she was gonna go to somewhere. It would just be in sort of the same sentence that she went from the palace to the mortal world, within a chapter. And I was just, sometimes I was a bit baffled, like, oh, so now we've gone from palace in fairyland to the little apartment in Maine. Like, that was quick. And that quick, I won't even say it's pace, because the books are fast paced and I like that. The quick shifts in settings. That was a bit annoying. I really didn't enjoy that, to be honest. Again, 50 to 100 more pages and maybe that wouldn't have been an issue. I think overall, I'm going to be giving this book, or this trilogy, 3.5 stars. It did have me at the edge of my seat in every book, and my husband laughed so much at my reactions to this book, and I sat so many times and just, went like, what? No, she did not. He did not. Not again. This mother sister. And yeah, so I was most definitely engaged with this book, but authors gotta follow through, because I don't know, is this too harsh to say? It felt a little bit like the Game of Thrones ending, that flatness of it. Suddenly it just happens all too quickly, and then everyone's happy and in love, and I'm like, but no one's talked about it. No one's talked about the issues. I need them to talk to one another. And they just haven't, and I really need that. But I still had to read the books. Like, I had a TBR list for February, and well, we were ill for the first 2 weeks, and we, meaning my husband and I and my daughter, we were all ill, taking turns being ill, and gosh, that was horrible. And I did not get to read as much as I wanted to, which is fine. But when I had the time to read, I didn't want to read something I wasn't really excited about. So my TBR list sort of got thrown out, which is also fine. The Cruel Prince was on my TBR list, and when I read that, luckily I had the second book already on my bookshelf, so I just immediately started on the second book, and the next day I went out and bought the third book, because I already knew then that I wanted to be reading the third one immediately after, and I did. I think these 3 books took me 4 or 5 days to binge read, and I had a lovely time. So there's definitely a lot of good things in this trilogy, and some things I would have wished to be a little bit different. Let me know in the comments below, have you read this series, and can you recognize any of the feelings I have, or are you, well, on either side of the spectrum? Do you hate it, or did you absolutely love it? I would really like to hear your thoughts. Have I got more to say about this book? There's so many betrayals in this book. Like, I was so frustrated reading it. If there's one thing I cannot handle, it's betrayals. They really get to me. So yeah, I think I'm going to be giving this book 3.5 stars. That's what I ended up with. I really enjoyed it. There's obviously a few parts that could have been better or different in my opinion. But overall, I really, really enjoyed reading this series. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And until next time, happy reading. Oh, that's not nice. Ooh. I forgot her name now. Jude. Jude, of course. Oh, there's a hole in my sock. That's annoying.